Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another PowerPoint presentation. The last one had a lot of success. It got some really good numbers, so we're back with another one. And this time we are running over the most promising unranked fighters in each division. As you can see on screen, we've got some promising unranked fighters already. Parker Porter, the best heavyweight on the planet, the uncrowned champ, as well as Paddy Pimblett, Trevor Peake, and Muhammad Usman, all respectable contenders in their division that are very promising and look that they could be getting the belt. So we're going to be running over a few more. Obviously, those ones are like the guarantees. Those ones are definitely going to win a title. But then we're going to run through some other ones and some other fighters that actually have been showing some promise recently and that I do think could actually make it pretty far in the UFC and potentially make a run at the title or make the top 15. So we are going. So just before I start, I wanted to just kind of say my regulations for this. If you've already become ranked, or if you've lost a few fights, or if you've kind of like if you're on like a streak, if you look promising as of now, then you're in here. But if you've kind of lost in the past, or you've like been around for a while, then you're probably not going to be on this video. So if I miss out on anyone, be sure to let me know. But I think these are the most notable fighters to watch in each division that are outside of the rankings. So we're going to start off with the flyweight division, and we've got Tatsuro Taira is the first one that I've got here. So he's 14-0. He's a talented Jap. He's got some questionable striking, but his grappling is very good. In his last fight against Edgar Shires, he almost lost to a cartel member, so that was unfortunate. But overall, Tatsuro Taira has shown to be pretty promising. And pretty decent in his recent fights, and I expect him to probably make the rankings, probably the top 10, maybe even the top 5 in the future. He's pretty young as well. Um, but the next one is Asu Almabayev. He's 18-2. He's better than Jalgash Umagulov. He's Kazakh as fuck, and he did sub a Jamaican. So that's promising to see from Asu Almabayev. Our third promising prospect is Alessandro Costa. He's 13-3. He's Brazilian. He did lose to an Iranian in the debut, but he did just smoke some white guy. I think his name's like Jimmy Flick or something. I think some random white looking guy. Looks a bit of a pedophile, to be honest. But Alessandro Costa, he's got a good style. He's fun to watch, and I like him as a fighter. And the final prospect to watch is Azat Maxim. He's 17-0. A bit of an iffy debut against Tyson Nam, but he's undefeated, even though it's probably a padded record. Let's be honest, because we know the thing with all the cliff dwellers, all the inbreds, they all got padded records. So wouldn't be surprised if he's fought a bunch of plumbers. But those are my promising prospects for the flyweight division. We move on to bantamweight, and the first one here is Rinya Nakamura. He's 8-0, also a Jap, upgraded version of Tatsuro Taira. He's an Olympic wrestler or some shit like that. Yeah, some sort of Olympic sport, I think, or some national champion or something like that. He's very dominant as fuck in the grappling. Probably beats Rob Font as of right now. Let's be real. And he carries the power of Hiroshima. He flatlined some guy on Road to UFC. And he's also basically Naruto. He's got yellow hair, so basically fights like Naruto, just smokes people, and is very promising to watch indeed. But we move on to Cameron Simon. He's 9-0. Second most African fighter in the UFC, only behind Dricus du Plessis. He looks inbred. He most likely is inbred. But he's got good grappling and he's a nutshot expert. He's secured fouls on basically every fighter that he's fought. He's fighting this weekend as well, so we're going to see what happens there. Maybe this doesn't age well and he loses, but if he wins, then he's definitely someone to watch. Another fighter, or fighters, are Javid and Farid Basharat. They're 14-0 and 11-0 respectively. Funded by the Taliban. You can't tell them apart. Who fuck knows? Like, but you're saying like the Basharat. Everyone just says Basharat. Like, you say, oh, who's fighting? You'd be like Basharat. You don't even be like Javid. You don't even know who's fighting. You just be like, one of these guys is fighting. I think they're grapplers just by looking at them. And one of them just subbed a Brazilian as well. Again, don't know who, but one of them just got a submission win on the France card. So Basharat brothers are a pair to watch in the UFC, and they could definitely do pretty well. And the final one is Daniel Santos, who is 11-2. He's a Brazilian Chad, mini Oliveira, and he's got a fun fighting style. Look, he has lost before. He did lose in the UFC, but I just wanted to put him in here just because he's really fun to watch, and he's a great fighter. But we move on to featherweight. The first one, Diego Lopez. Even though he is 22-6, he does own Movsar Evloev. He rocked up on short notice and just put the whole division on notice. He basically just told everyone, "I'm gonna smoke all of you." Um, he looks suicidal, but he's also an amazing fighter. Definitely root and grasso, like he's getting that. And he flying triangle to Canadian in his last fight, which was very impressive. So good stuff from Diego Lopez. Another fighter is Pat Sabatini. He's 18-4. Future Lopez victim. He's fighting him in November. Um, Good wrestling, but he lost to Damon Jackson, who's got no hairline, so that's kind of tough for him. We move on to Joe Anderson Brito. He's 15-3, jacked, solid power. Smoked Wonderboy's teammate. Beat Diego Lopez somehow. I think it was a fluke. He aggressively called out Dan Ige, but refuses to elaborate. And he's a future owner of Dan Ige. So we move on though to the lightweight division. And we've got Bernard Saint Denis. So Bernard Saint Denis, he's 12-1. He possesses the majority of France's testosterone. Former soldier, Chad. Great beard. Ended Bonfim's hype. He also beat Moises better than Islam did. So basically, he beats Islam Makhachev on paper. Only loss is at 170, so it basically doesn't count. But he's also like indestructible because he didn't even get knocked down in that fight. And he's a future owner of Frivola. He's the god of war, and if you chat shit to him, he will break you. He will mentally destroy you and TKO you inside 2 rounds. Um, the next guy is Narulo Aliyev. He's 9-0. Looks like Khabib. Had a dominant debut against Rafael Alves, but another cliff dweller. So we can't get around it. Like we get rid of all the cliff dwellers. Like we don't need them all in the sport. So get him out of here. The next one, Mateusz Rebecki. He's 18-1. He's a thick Polish guy. Smoked a cliff dweller in his last fight. I think his name was like Rajdabov. Of course, it ends in ov. But he smoked an inbred in his last fight. 15 fight win streak. That's good stuff. He's fighting Aliev at 295, which I hope he wins because I don't know. I prefer Polish people over inbreds. Not to say that Polish people can't be inbred. But I don't know. I prefer non-inbreds over inbreds personally. Not a big fan of the whole having sex with your sister kind of thing or cousin. That's not for me. But also has an awful hairline. Does Rebecca though, so that's tough for him. Maybe needs to go to Turkey and get a hairline transplant. Um, and the final prospect at 155 is Elvis Brenner. He's 15-3, Brazilian Chad. He beat Guram on short notice. Genuinely, actually, like a solid fighter. Effective pressure. He got a comeback win, obviously, which was sick to watch, and he made Guram quit. Always good to see when a fighter just makes an inbred just crumble and give up on their life, and just take the L. Is what he did there. So good stuff from Elsman, and he's also fighting in a couple of weeks' time on the Brazil card. He's fighting like some other Argentinian bloke or something. Um, but we move on to the welterweight division. Gabriel Bonfim is the first unranked prospect I have here. He's 15-0. He's the superior brother out of the Bonfims. He will guillotine you. That's just what will happen. First UFC fights have been a combined 2 minutes. He's got better things to do. And he actually makes grappling entertaining. He's not a boring inbred grappler. He's actually like fun to watch. And the next one, Renat Fakretinov. He's 21-1. He's Russian as fuck. Most certainly inbred. He killed Kevin Lee as his comeback, and he's very dominant with a cool beard as well. And he's less, even though he's inbred, like he's less annoying than all the other inbreds. Like he's actually kind of fun to watch. Renat, he's pretty cool. But he's still inbred. The next one, Michael Morales, also 15-0. He's apparently Ecuadorian, like so he's basically just Brazilian. Like what the fuck else is there in South America? Still a bit unproven and he struggled with some old guy as well. Max Griffin, he didn't look the best in his last fight, but he's getting better, and his striking's pretty solid. Um, and the next one is Mike Malott, who's 10-1. He's Canadian, which is soy. He talks like Michael Chandler. He's like unbelievably white. Like it's actually weird how white this guy is. And he looks like a high school bully in a movie. Like you know those typical like high school bullies in movies that you see. That's what he looks like. Oh, he also lost to a featherweight. Lol, that's pretty funny. He lost to Hakeem Dawoodi, which is tough. He literally just lost to Cub Swanson. who also just lost to Jonathan Martinez. So basically, on paper, he loses to bantamweights. So Malott, I don't know, not too high on him, but he's decent. We move to the middleweight division. We've got quite a few prospects here. Roman Kopylov is the first one I've gone with. He's 12-2. He's Chase Hooper, but with testosterone. Um, Bet the house on a round 2 KO. That's what he's gotten 3 of them this year. And he's got some nasty striking. The next one, and also he would beat Roman Dolidze. He's the superior Roman, and he's non-boring as a Russian fighter, which is unusual. The next one is Bo Nickel, who's 5-0. He's ginger, so that's kind of against him, but it works for fighting. He's like a D1 wrestler, apparently. Apparently that's like meaningful. Me personally, I just see red, but like I don't know. If you want to have some D1 wrestling, that kind of helps too. Um, he takes layoffs to go hunting, which is kind of weird, but also kind of Chad. He beats Cans, like he really hasn't beat anyone good, but he does look pretty solid. Jamie Pickett stood no chance. He smoked Jamie Pickett, nutshotted him, and then head and arm choked him. So that's good stuff. The next one is Ikram Alaskerov, who's 14-1. He's famous for getting chinned by Hamzat. That's basically the only notable fight that he has on his record. Elite Sambo, Cliff Dweller style. And he beat Phil Hawes, but who hasn't? So good stuff from Ikram. He's fighting Wally Alves in a few weeks' time. So if he wins that, then maybe he's like somewhat decent. But he was gonna fight Imavov, and then that fight fell out. So whatever. Um, Caio Borralho, who's 14-1, is the next prospect. He's Brazilian. He's doing it for the nerds. 14 fight unbeaten streak, pretty cool. And he's about to smoke an inbred. I was actually because he was gonna when I made this, he's booked to fight. He was booked to fight Rizabov, but now he's actually fighting Abbas Magomedov. But that still stands. Honestly, it's amazing how I could have about to smoke an inbred as a thing about Caio Borralho, and then the opponent changes and the statement is still correct. And then also the next one is Joe Pfeiffer, who's 12-2. He just subbed Deji. That was pretty cool. Got 6 takedowns. Slams are pretty cool. B Joe Pfeiffer. And also he looks like Bo Nickel, but like 5 years older. Um, we move on to the light heavyweight division, which basically has no prospects, but we found 2 here. I've scoured across the whole UFC to find 2 promising light heavyweights. Carlos Olberg is the first. He's 9-1. He looks like he'd go on The Bachelor. His one loss was kind of a fluke. He was smoking the guy and then he gassed out. It doesn't count basically. He's the alpha of CKB. Izzy's soy. He doesn't touch dogs, which immediately makes him better than Adesanya. And he tapped a BTS member in his last fight. But he called out Reyes, which is low-key an L. Like, you don't call out Dominic Reyes. That's kind of sad. But the next one is Vitor Petrino, who's 9-0. He's Brazilian, probably on juice because his name's Vitor. Improved from his debut where he looked kind of mid against the Pleasure Man. But then he looked really good in his last fight. He beat some Polish bloke. He's going to stomp out Bukowskis' knee in his next fight, which is in a few weeks' time. So good stuff from Vitor Petrino. He looks pretty promising. And then we move on to the heavyweight division, which basically you're promising if you aren't fat. But that's too difficult to find, so some of these guys are fat. But Junior Tafa, who's 5-1, is my first prospect I've got here. He's decent kickboxing. He takes care of Justin's leftovers. I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about opponents. Like he smoked Parker Porter, and he's got some good power. Waldo Cortez Acosta is the next one. He's 10-1, the salsa boy. He looked good in his last fight. He sent a Polish bloke spinning in circles. But he is allergic to leg kicks. He doesn't check leg kicks at all. Mick Parkin is 7-0. He's the next one. He's English. He's funny to look at. He had an impressive debut, and he trains with Aspinall. So maybe keep an eye on Mick Parkin. And this is the next one. We got Muhammad Usman, the GOAT. Looks shit, but still wins. Jammed his kid for a tax write-off. And he's the CEO of EPO. And he's also ugly. But he's somehow winning fights, so I'll chuck him in here. But ladies and gentlemen, those are the prospects. That's everyone that you need to watch who is an unranked fighter. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know down below if you agree with all my picks. Let me know who else you need to watch or who else I should be watching as an unranked fighter. But yeah, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, all that. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any time I post an absolute banger of a video. Go follow my Instagram, leftlane_MMA. And yeah, that's good stuff. Those are the best prospects to watch in each division. I'm right, you're wrong if you disagree. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.